Welcome to What I Wish I Knew at 30. I'm your host, Fran Harper, Global Sales Director, entrepreneur coach, and someone who's lived through the highs and heartbreaks of business, love, health, and family. This podcast is about hindsight, about the wisdom we earn through living the kind of lessons you wish someone had whispered to you when you were 20, 30, or even 40. And today, I'm not interviewing anyone. Today is just you and me. This is my story. My journey through building businesses, surviving betrayal, losing everything, starting over in a new country, and facing cancer head on. And most importantly, the lessons that came out of it all. So let's jump in. I grew up in a family business. My father founded a company called Neptune Seafoods. And like most kids, I swore I'd never work in the family business. But life had other ideas. After studying science and PE at the College of St. Paul and Mary's in Cheltenham, I took a job on the SS Uganda with P&O, sailing the Med and the Black Sea with 1,000 school kids and 300, as we called them, cabbages. That's what we called the adult passengers. It was adventurous, exciting, and full of energy, but eventually I came home, and what was meant to be a holiday job with my father's company turned into much more. In 1987, everything changed. Dad sold Neptune to Clearwater. It was supposed to be a 5-year earn-out, but when Clearwater's CEO was tragically killed in a car accident, the deal unraveled. Suddenly, the business was integrated, and in a shocking twist, we were all made redundant. My father, my sisters, and my mum. Just like that, it felt like the rug had been pulled out from under us. It had been. But sometimes doors close so that new ones can open. My sister Ali and I saw an opportunity, and the old factory site was actually available. We rented it and we started Paramount. It was built on the foundation of relationships and customers from Neptune. And here's the irony. Because women in business back then weren't really taken that seriously, neither of us as kids had been tied into non-compete clauses. So while our parents were locked out from actually working in the fishing industry and the food industry, of course we weren't. So we were free to carry on, and we did. So let's time travel. I'm 30 years old. I'm working in Paramount. On paper, it looks like success. In reality, for me, it's chaos. I was working endless hours. There were a few clashes between siblings. I was recovering from a serious road accident where I had really bad whiplash, and every day felt like a battle to just keep going. I did not feel like I had life figured out at all. If anything, I was winging it, emotionally drained, physically hurting, and trying to keep a business alive, and also raising 2 little girls. And then came the real first test of resilience. Fishing quotas. Overnight, the supply of fish was slashed for us. That meant cash flow dried up. Now, most people would have folded, but we didn't. Instead, every morning we sat with a giant A1 sheet of paper and a pencil, and along the top we wrote the money coming in, and down the side all the people that we owed money to. And every single day we worked out what tiny payments we could make, who we could call, and how we could keep the lights on. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't easy, but it kept us alive. And it taught me one of the most important lessons of my life. Relationships matter more than anything in business. If you can keep people in the loop, if you're honest, if you communicate, they will work with you even in the toughest times. At 30, my dream was simple. The perfect family, the loving partner, the kids, the happy home. But life doesn't always match the picture you paint. My relationship with the girl's father had broken down. Infidelity destroyed the life I thought we were building. It was humiliating, painful, and worst of all, very public. Now, instead of stopping to heal, I ran. I threw myself into the arms of an old flame, ignored every red flag, and did the unthinkable. I left everything behind and moved to Australia. So picture this. I was at this time 35 weeks pregnant, arriving in a new country with 2 little girls, no support network, and walking into something that I didn't know was going to be a step parenting nightmare. Talk about culture shock. Was it the right decision? Probably not. But here's what I've learned. If I hadn't taken that leap, my boys would never have been born, and they're one of the greatest blessings of my life. Sometimes the worst decisions still bring us the best gifts. Looking back, I can see that life really is the best teacher, but those lessons often come disguised as disasters. The fishing quotas, the cash flow crisis, the betrayals in my marriage, the exhaustion of raising kids while running a business, the moments where I had nothing left in the tank. At the time, each one felt like the end of the world, but each one taught me something that I now share with my clients every single day. It taught me resilience. They taught me to think laterally. They taught me to take radical responsibility. And eventually, they taught me that working harder isn't the answer, especially if you're running on empty. You have to take care of yourself first, or your decisions will be flawed, your relationships will suffer, and your health will give way. The biggest transformation came later when I discovered personal development. At Paramount, I was leading a global sales and marketing team. I noticed the same strategies worked brilliantly in one country and then failed in another. At first, I thought it was the team, but then I realized, well, maybe it was me. Maybe it was how I was communicating. So I did what I always do. I went all in. I trained in NLP, in timeline therapy, and hypnosis. Today, I'm a master trainer, and it changed everything. It taught me cause and effect. It taught me that I'd been living at the effect of circumstances, blaming, excusing, and justifying. And it forced me to step into full responsibility for my own life. And that was a mindset shift that I can never unlearn. If I could bottle hindsight, I'd be a millionaire. Because here's the truth. At 30, I thought working harder would fix everything. I thought ignoring red flags would somehow make them disappear. And I thought sacrifice was noble. But hindsight tells a very different story. So if I could whisper advice to my 30-year-old self, it would be this. Take care of yourself first. Be clear on your values and never abandon them to please others. And remember, every decision has a consequence. No one is coming to save you. Fast forward to today. I've built businesses across Australia, the UK. I've coached, trained, spoken on stages, and worked with incredible people. I've traveled the world, survived stage 3 bowel cancer. I now have a colostomy bag. I've endured 12 rounds of chemotherapy and come out the other side more determined than ever. And that's why I started this podcast, because I know what it's like to feel overwhelmed at 30, to question whether you're on the right path, to wonder if the sacrifices you're making are worth it. This show is here to give you hindsight in advance through my stories and the stories of incredible guests who've walked the path before you. So if you take just one thing from my story today, let it be this. Yesterday is gone. You can't change it. But today you can choose differently. This life isn't a rehearsal. You don't get a second chance unless, like me, you're lucky enough to survive cancer. And I don't want you to wait for that kind of wake-up call. I want you to live with purpose, to know your values, to create the life you want, not the one others expect of you. Thank you for joining me for the very first episode of What I Wish I Knew at 30. If my story resonated, I'd love for you to follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you know someone with a story worth sharing, email me at fran@franharpercoaching.com. I'd love to hear from them. This is just the beginning. Every single day, you get a chance to reset your life. So let's do this together. Thank you for joining me on What I Wish I Knew at 30, and I can't wait to see you in the next episodes.